Modern digital stalking operates as a systemic weapon, an architecture designed to achieve total psychological capture before physical violence occurs. Kristil Krug was a biochemist and a mother of 3. In the final months of her life, a ghost meticulously dismantled her reality. Holland, an ex-boyfriend she hadn't dated in over 20 years. The communications escalated quickly. Initial requests to hook up turned into commands to commit suicide and threats to tamper with her car's exhaust system. The sheer volume and hyper-targeted nature of these messages moved beyond intimidation, functioning as a methodical effort to completely rewrite Kristil's perceived reality. The stalker established dominance by proving physical proximity. He cited real-world details, such as the fact that the registration stickers on her license plates had expired. While Kristil sat inside a dentist appointment, she received a text claiming the stalker vandalized her car in the parking lot, confirming she was being actively tracked. This ongoing surveillance transitioned into environmental sabotage. The security cameras at the Krug home were remotely disabled, and the lens on the garage camera was found covered with tape. The harassment eventually included her husband, Daniel Krug. The stalker sent an email featuring a photograph of Daniel arriving at his workplace, reinforcing the threat's perceived omnipotence. The abuser then strategically weaponized third parties. A classified ad was posted on Locanto using Kristil's town and phone number, directing strangers to contact and harass her. By demonstrating intimate knowledge of her movements and disabling her physical defenses, the stalker forced Kristil into a state of acute hypervigilance. Extreme gaslighting involves the systemic manipulation of a victim's entire physical and digital environment. Kristil reacted to the perceived phantom by changing her daily routines, live streaming her location to her brother, and purchasing a 9mm handgun for protection. To understand the architecture of this abuse, we must contrast the physical threats Kristil perceived against the digital footprint left by her tormentor. This flowchart maps the connection between the burner phone used to terrorize Kristil and the financial records of its buyer. The device was purchased using a gift card registered to Daniel Krug. Geolocation data confirms this burner phone physically traveled alongside Daniel's personal phone. Digital age gaslighting grants an abuser the ability to act as the invisible tormentor and the present, supportive observer at the same time. This dual role creates a dynamic known as the protector paradox. By the fall of 2023, the Krug marriage had collapsed. Kristil was sleeping in a separate room and actively preparing to file for divorce. Manufacturing a lethal external threat effectively trapped Kristil, halting her exit strategy and enforcing total isolation. Daniel weaponized her trust by aggressively playing the role of the terrified protector, carrying a baton, hyper-monitoring the surroundings, and crying to police about his inability to keep her safe. The ultimate goal of this psychological architecture was to create cognitive dissonance, forcing the victim to rely on the architect of her terror for survival. The ruse unraveled when Kristil explicitly confronted Daniel, telling him she could no longer rule him out as her stalker. On December 13th, Daniel's internet search history shifted to premeditative lethality. He searched for the mechanics of head trauma and how to knock someone unconscious. On the morning of December 14th, Kristil completed her routine of dropping the kids at school and returned home to her garage. The domestic routine ended in a calculated ambush inside the garage. Daniel incapacitated her from behind with a blunt object before delivering a lethal stab wound directly to the heart. This was a calculated execution, triggered immediately by Daniel's loss of psychological control over his wife. Daniel attempted to build an alibi by producing a text message he seemingly received from Kristil while he was already driving to work. Forensic analysis of Kristil's phone proved those morning messages were programmed using a delayed send feature before Daniel ever left the house. Police in Utah verified Anthony Holland's location using a time-stamped store receipt, immediately eliminating the phantom suspect. Daniel's digital architecture contained a traceable signature, the routing data attached to the stalker emails. Investigators traced the IP logs from the threatening emails directly back through server nodes to pinpoint a specific address block. That address block belonged to the Colorado Department of Public Health and Environment, Daniel Krug's workplace. Daniel's belief that he could outsmart digital forensics provided the exact mechanism required to prove his guilt. In the days before the murder, police waited for standard digital warrants to process, instead of treating the tech abuse as an imminent threat to life. This highlights a systemic misunderstanding known as the lethality myth in domestic abuse. Domestic homicide is often assumed to follow a pattern of escalating physical outbursts or a sudden loss of temper. Coercive control acts as a tightening grip. The absence of physical violence does not indicate the absence of lethal danger.